Amara, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
I've been looking forward to this because I have a slight problem.
What's the problem?
I'm not entirely sure whether I should trust you.
That's probably healthy.
You've said some fairly unsettling things about reality.
Such as?
That there is no free will. That what we experience as choice might not actually be choice.
That's right.
And then you wrote a book about a charismatic cult leader who convinces people that he's discovered the truth about existence.
I can see the problem.
You don't think that's a little suspicious?
Not particularly.
That's exactly what a cult leader would say.
Well, I haven't asked you to move to a compound.
Yet.
Fair.
So why should anyone trust you enough to read The Cult Leader?
They shouldn't.
Good.
They should read it and decide for themselves.
That's actually a much better answer.
I thought so.
Before we get into the book, there's one other thing I have to ask. Why the armor?
It's part of the character.
The character being Amara Knight?
Yes.
And the sword?
Purely symbolic.
What does it symbolize?
Truth.
And the armor?
Anonymity.
You're wearing a full suit of armor to remain anonymous?
So far, it's worked.
Has it?
You don't know my face.
That's true.
Exactly.
Fair enough. So let's actually talk about the book. What inspired The Cult Leader?
I was in a cult myself.
You were?
Yeah.
Which one?
I don't want to reveal that.
Why?
People debate whether it's really a cult.
That's typically how cults work.
Exactly.
Was it an especially extreme one?
No, not really. That's part of what interested me.
What happened?
Someone killed themselves, and that sparked the idea for a story.
What kind of story?
I started wondering how someone becomes a cult leader, how his ideas can influence someone deeply enough that one of his followers takes his own life. And then I became interested in the person left behind, the family member who has to make sense of what happened.
Which became Jade.
Jade, yes.
Give us the premise without spoiling anything.
18-year-old Jade Chan infiltrates a secretive movement called the Exodus Initiative after her brother Jun dies under the influence of its charismatic leader, Lev Nazarov.
That's quite different from How Do I Expose This Cult?
It is.
Because Jade isn't really a detective.
No, she's 18.
And not exactly thriving.
Not particularly.
She's working at a diner, she's directionless, she's dealing with her brother's death, and she's struggling with the question of whether she even wants to be alive.
Yes.
So infiltrating a cult gives her something she didn't have before.
A purpose.
Which is probably one reason she gets in deeper than she intended.
Exactly.
That's what makes the premise interesting to me. She's not some FBI agent going undercover.
No, she's a young woman who has very little to lose.
And possibly something to gain.
That's the danger.
Let's talk about Jun, because I think he's very important to understanding the book.
He is.
We meet him before Jade's story really begins.
Yes.
And he's not initially some obviously broken person. He's a normal 17-year-old.
Pretty much.
He has a girlfriend, friends, a family, he works, he's funny.
Yes.
And then he discovers Lev.
That's when everything changes.
What attracted Jun to him?
Lev gives him an explanation of reality. He tells him that the ordinary life everyone accepts, school, relationships, careers, family, all of it, is built on illusion.
And Jun desperately wants to believe there's something more.
Yes.
Which I think is important because Jun isn't stupid.
No.
He's actually intelligent.
That's part of what makes him vulnerable.
Because intelligence doesn't protect you from being manipulated.
Sometimes it gives you better tools for rationalizing what you already want to believe.
That's a rather unpleasant thought.
It happens to be true.
So let's talk about Lev.
Okay.
What makes a person like him charismatic?
Certainty.
Certainty?
He speaks as though he's already solved the questions everyone else is still struggling with.
And that's seductive.
Very.
Especially if you're suffering.
Especially then.
Is Lev a villain?
He certainly does terrible things.
That's not quite what I asked.
I know.
Is he a villain?
I think he's more interesting than that.
Because he actually believes what he's saying?
Yes. He doesn't wake up every morning thinking, how can I be evil today?
He thinks he's discovered the truth.
And that gives him the confidence to tell other people what to do with their lives.
Which is a dangerous combination.
Very.
Jade eventually gets into Levsville.
Yes,
And I have to say, the place itself is almost a character.
I think so.
Perfect lawns, white houses, armed guards, streets with rather optimistic names.
Very optimistic.
It looks almost idyllic.
That's the idea.
But the more time Jade spends there, the more she realizes something is very wrong.
Yes,
And that's part of what makes the setting work. It's not some obviously sinister compound. It's beautiful,
exactly.
which makes it harder to leave.
And harder to understand.
Then there's Morella.
Yes,
I like Morella.
so do I.
She's armed, suspicious, sarcastic, and apparently has very little patience for Lev.
That's accurate.
At one point, she calls him a windbag,
She does.
which is probably my favorite description of a cult leader I've encountered.
Morella doesn't really care about his title.
And Jade becomes attracted to her.
Yes,
Was that always part of the story?
yes. Jade comes into Levsville thinking she understands exactly why she's there, but the place keeps complicating her motivations,
Including Morella.
especially Morella.
So the investigation gets a little complicated.
It does.
Let's get to the thing I suspect you really wanted to write.
What's that?
The philosophy.
Obviously.
Because the cult leader is marketed as a psychological thriller.
I'd actually call it a philosophical thriller.
What's the difference?
There is suspense. There's an investigation. There are secrets. There are dangerous situations. But the central conflict isn't simply, will Jade expose the cult?
It's what?
Whether life is worth living.
That's the question?
That's the question.
Which makes Jun's suicide central.
Completely.
Jade isn't merely trying to figure out whether Lev caused her brother's death.
No.
She's trying to figure out whether her brother was right about existence.
Yes.
What happens when we die?
That's part of it.
Is death an escape from suffering?
That's another part of it.
And should we want to live?
That's the question Jade ultimately has to confront.
Why tell that story as a thriller?
Because philosophy can become very abstract if you just have people sitting around discussing it.
Whereas Jade has to actually live through the ideas.
Exactly.
So instead of writing an essay about whether life is worth living, you put an 18-year-old inside a situation where she has to make that question personal.
Yes,
That's much more interesting.
I thought so.
If you had to say what the book is about beyond the plot, what would you say?
It's about the search for meaning,
Even when the search becomes dangerous?
especially then.
And grief,
Yes,
and charisma,
yes,
and spiritual manipulation,
yes.
and the possibility that some of the questions asked by a dangerous person might still be legitimate questions.
That's very important.
Because Lev doesn't invent the question of whether life is worth living.
No,
He just gives his own answer.
exactly.
And Jade has to decide what her answer is.
Yes.
Why the cult leader?
Because ultimately, it's Lev's story as much as it is Jade's.
Even though Jade is our protagonist.
Yes,
We see what his ideas do to Jun. We see how he built his movement. We see how people respond to him,
and we see him through Jade's eyes.
which makes him more complicated the closer she gets to him.
Exactly.
One thing I found interesting is that the book doesn't simply say, this cult is wrong, therefore everything they believe is wrong.
No,
Some of the questions are actually difficult.
they should be.
What is a meaningful life? Why do we suffer? What do we owe one another? What does it mean to bring another person into existence? What happens after death?
Those are much older questions than Lev.
And that's what makes them dangerous for him to appropriate.
Exactly.
because he doesn't own those questions.
No one does.
Did you enjoy writing, Lev?
Very much.
Should I be concerned?
Probably.
You created a man who believes he has achieved infinite understanding.
Yes.
Was there any danger of him becoming unbearable to write?
Constantly.
How did you cope?
I gave him a cult.
Fair. Without giving away the ending, Jade eventually has to make a decision.
Yes.
And it's a decision that forces her to answer the question the entire novel has been asking.
Exactly.
So the book isn't really asking the reader, what does Jade discover?
Not only that.
It's asking, what would you choose?
Yes.
That's a much more uncomfortable question.
I think it should be.
Who is this book for?
People who enjoy psychological suspense. People interested in cults and charismatic leaders. People who like philosophical fiction.
So it's not necessarily a book for people who already agree with you.
No.
Good.
In fact, I'd prefer they didn't.
Why?
Agreement is boring.
That's a dangerous thing for an author to say when she's trying to sell a book.
I'm beginning to think I'm not very good at this.
What do you want the reader to come away with?
A question.
Which question?
That's for the reader to decide.
That's evasive.
It's philosophical.
Of course it is. One sentence. Pitch me the cult leader.
An 18-year-old girl infiltrates a cult to understand why her brother killed himself and finds herself confronting the possibility that he may have been right about life, death, and what comes after.
That's actually a very good pitch.
Thank you.
I was expecting something more philosophical.
I can make it worse if you'd like.
No, I think we're good.
Good.
Amara Knight, thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget why we're here. We're here to wake up.